Hey guys, welcome back. We have recently started the Insider's Guide to Panama, and I will say one of the number one questions that I get from YouTube, from anything that we're sending out in a newsletter is people want to know a contact for lawyers in Panama. In Panama, there's thousands of lawyers, to be honest with you, some good, some bad, some somewhere in the middle. I'm really only comfortable recommending one. I've known Delco, I've known Alberto now for around 6 years, maybe a little longer. And every client I've ever sent them, has only had really, really great things to say. I personally use them. So I would like to introduce to you guys, this is Alberto Levy from Delco Law here in Panama. Alberto has helped probably maybe over the hundreds, maybe into the thousands of clients of ours when buying real estate or setting up entities or even immigration. You guys do all different types of law.
Correct.
But yeah, Alberto's kind of our one-stop shop for everything. So I wanted to bring him on. And Alberto, what would you say is, like, in terms of frequently asked questions that you would get from any of the clients that you've talked to mine in the past, what would be, like, let's say top 3 questions?
Thanks, Kileys. The first question we typically got asked is whether foreigners have the same rights than Panamanians for owning or buying properties in Panama.
Sure.
Some of them are skeptical whether they can own properties that are beachfront or on islands, right, or certain specifications. And the reality is that Panamanian laws are very clear. Nationals can own any type of property with no restrictions, no conditions. The only limitation that there is that they cannot own a property within 5 kilometers from each of the Panamanian borders with Costa Rica and Colombia, and there's not much there going on.
Right.
So other than that, when you are buying a property in Panama as a foreigner, you are pretty much treated as if you were Panamanian. No restrictions, no conditions. You can use it. You can lease it and enjoy it peacefully and for whatever you want.
Super. So I would assume after that big checkbox that they can, because I know you guys get that question a lot because people that are looking at Panama have usually looked at Mexico, which it's different. I don't know exactly Costa Rica, but a lot of the surrounding areas that if you're looking to live or invest outside have slightly different laws. Panama is pretty easy and straightforward in that. But if someone doesn't want to own something in their own name, either for asset protection, for taxes, for whatever reason, how they're structured outside, what are other, let's say, vehicles that they might be interested in understanding more?
Right, that's an amazing question, and we typically got asked that a lot. So there are several ways for owning properties in Panama. The first one, as you mentioned, is owning the property directly under your personal name. It is important to mention that unlike, for example, the US and other jurisdictions, in Panama there's not such a thing as joint ownership. For example, in the US, if you own a property together with your husband, there's something called joint ownership with right of survivorship, which if something, God forbid, happens to you, then your husband will continue owning 100% of the property. In Panama, if you own the property together with another person, each one of them is owning individually 50% of the property. So that's very important to clarify it, because a lot of clients are coming to us as a couple or with kids and they want to own property more than one person, and that might have some complications in the long run. So in addition to owning property at your name, there are several entities people use. So there is the Sociedad Anónima, which is similar to a Type C corporation for the US listeners. It's kind of like the most common entity used by locals and Panamanians when doing business and owning properties in Panama, and it's an option. Then there's another option which is called the Sociedad de Responsabilidad Limitada, which is the equivalent to an LLC. This one is very popular for American clients because from a US tax perspective, it's considered a pass-through entity. So it offers them some benefits when, filing their taxes in the US. And that's actually kind of like the most common entity that we have seen our American clients using when buying properties in Panama for investment purposes. And then lastly, there's an entity that is called the Fundación de Interés Privado, or Private Interest Foundation. It's somewhat similar to a trust, although it's not a trust, and this entity specifically, it's very attractive for clients that are interested in estate planning and pretty much kind of like, you know, having everything clear with regards to the future and how it will work. So typically what we do is when a client meets with us, we exchange with them kind of like their needs, what they want, how they want things structured, and then on a case-by-case scenario, we recommend, you know, what we believe is the best alternative for the client in order to consider all the requirements or needs he may have.
Right. No, I would say, and I know, like, I'm sure you get a lot of general questions as well, but when someone says, for example, with me, like, what's the best investment? I'm like, that's not, I need to ask, let's say 50 questions, 25 questions, whatever, to understand their situation better, to be able to advise them. I'm sure that's very similar
pretty much
with you guys, depending on like how they're structured back home, what level of asset protection, do they have other international properties, like where are they most heavily invested, how are they structured back home, I think are two of the big questions that you guys would need to understand to advise, no?
100%.
Would you say, along those lines, if someone's looking outside, I would say a big top three, the third one would be taxes. So for tax purposes, and I know with Americans, like you guys are very comfortable advising here and can give kind of like upper level tax advice for Americans, but again, that's going to depend heavily on how they're structured back home. But for general tax purposes in Panama, would you say that there's a better way to hold it? I know, for example, like capital gains, I know you have options, right, in Panama, which is not something that's normal. I once told a client, like, no, you actually have an option of paying this type of capital gains or this, and their mind was blown. So could you maybe give us like the top, I don't know, the top questions that you see yourself responding to on a daily basis about real estate tax in Panama?
Sure. So I'll focus, of course, on the Panamanian side, and typically, you know, the structure, the ownership structure doesn't impact that much taxes in Panama. It might impact taxes abroad. And that's why, as you mentioned, we usually always advise our clients, you know, verifying the structure they're using in Panama with a local attorney back home so that they can verify that whatever we're structuring here works with whatever structure they have in place. That said, you know, and pretty much the basics without going into, you know, all the taxes sometimes can be complicated. You know, when discussing with clients, and we have a client pretty much from everywhere, I do believe Panama has a very attractive tax regime, not only in the amount of taxes paid or the rate of the taxes, but also in how it works with regards to filings. Of course, you will at some point need a lawyer or an accountant, but overall they are very easy to file when comparing it to other jurisdictions, both in Central America and you know, other countries. That said, some things to consider. When you are buying property, it's the seller who pays transfer and capital gain taxes. So when you as a buyer are buying a property, you should not be responsible for the taxes associated to the transaction or to the sale. Usually buyer pays closing fees, which is around 1% of the value of the property. That said, from the moment you start owning the property, which means that the legal title is actually transferred to you, you will start paying property taxes. Okay. Property taxes are calculated kind of like based on a scale. You know, there's like different rates. So the first $30,000 are exempted, and then from 30,000 to, you know, it goes up. It ends up, the higher rate, it's about 1%, so it's not that high. And there's also a benefit that if you get the Panamanian residency, and I'm sure we're going to discuss that later, you can register one home as your primary residence, provided that you are going to live there. And if that's the case, you can apply for an even more beneficial property tax rate. Right. So in that regard, it's very attractive. Just for you to have an idea, a property of, let's say, $300,000 should be paying around
like $1,200?
$1,500 a year on property tax, which you know,
Not so bad.
No, not at all.
No, I mean, we're talking, remember, Canadians that are right now, capital gains taxes for Canadians are somewhere not quite to 70%, but you're looking at almost 70%. I think we get so used to the tax structure that's here and how comfortable it is that now dealing with North Americans when they say things like 67%, 70%, it's almost like it's hard to believe, no?
Yeah, it's 100%. So that's property tax. Then if you are buying the property for investment, so let's say that you're going to be leasing the property and you're going to start receiving income, there's an income tax rate, which is pretty much fixed rate. It's 25% on income after deductions.
Okay.
So let's say if you buy a property, you can depreciate the value of the property over a period of years, and then if you had expenses, the HOA, electricity, whatever expenses you had on the property, you can deduct them, and based on the actual income, you will pay 25% income tax, which is also very attractive when compared to other jurisdictions. And then the last tax that is important to consider is when you are selling the property.
Okay.
Let's say you bought the property, you had it for 10 years, you made some good money, and then somebody comes knocking the door and it's offering you good money on the property. When you're selling the property, then as a seller, you are responsible for paying taxes. There are several ways to looking at it, and that's where it might get a little trickier. To not get too technical on this, and of course, happy to answer any questions, and you can ask Kylie, my contact, and I'll be happy to chat or discuss with you privately. But do not get too technical. You should estimate that the taxes that you need to pay when selling the property, it's around 5% on the higher between the registered value, which is what you bought the property for, or the value at what you are selling the property. With the disclaimer that if you are selling the property at a loss, so if you're not making any income on the sale of the property, then instead of paying 5%, you'll end up paying around 2.5%.
Okay, so piggybacking on that, we've talked about ownership, we've talked about vehicles of ownership, we've talked about taxes. I would say the next biggest thing that is part of all of this would be the residency piece, no? Because number one, Panama makes sense for a lot of people from an investment perspective, from a tax perspective, and then I find this, people either they come, one, for the visa, or two, when I'm like, hey, you're purchasing a property that qualifies you for this, are you interested in it? And it's one of the few really streamlined and easy golden visa processes that still exist. A lot of those have changed. I think the one in Portugal changed, the one in Spain changed. A lot of the ones in the Caribbean overnight have kind of changed. They're still there, iffy. But specifically the qualified investor, because there's a few. You have the friendly nations that you have to be from a specific 50 different countries. There's also a purchase requirement there. But the qualified investor one that is quick, easy, very straightforward. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure. It's very popular, and actually, we have had a lot of clients that, with the first call, they ask about it, we discuss it, and they say, you know what, Panama, residency, what for? Then they come to Panama the first time, and how does this residency thing
Sign
work?
me up, yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that we are working a lot on with. And the qualifying investor visa, or red carpet, or golden visa, as it's popularly called, it has a lot of traction in the last years. So basically, the way it works is that it's conditioned on an investment in property of at least $300,000. Okay. They have had several attempts to increase the investment value, but so far they have kept it twice at $300,000, and our understanding is that for the moment there's no boss or intention to increase it. So provided that you made an investment of $300,000, it's important to clarify that you must have had already paid the $300,000, either directly to the developer, or if you don't want to pay it directly to the developer, you can set up a like kind of like an escrow account and deposit the difference there, or issue a guarantee. There are several options, but provided that you advance $300,000 in cash for the acquisition of a property in Panama, you can qualify for this residence. And what is very attractive specifically of the red carpet visa is that it's the only one that actually grants you the permanent residency immediately within a time frame of 30 days, literally. Like, and it's sometimes it takes 32, 34, but it's one of the very few that really goes very fast. There's no need for you to be here in Panama to submit the request. We do need to get some requirements and some paperwork, and you will only come upon the 30-day pass once the resolution has been approved to take your picture, and the moment you take your picture, 30 minutes later, you have your Panamanian ID, which pretty much gives you all the benefits of being a Panamanian, other that having a passport or voting in the elections to whomever that might feel, relevant.
And I don't think you can serve in the army also that we don't have, no?
Yeah, correct.
Super.
And if somebody is then interested in the passport, so the main condition for the passport is that you need to at least be a Panamanian permanent resident for 5 years. So if you get the permanent residency today, in 5 years you can apply to being a Panamanian citizen. That grants you the right to have a Panamanian passport. You need to sing the national anthem in Spanish and some other stuff. So, Kiley has been a client and actually a very good personal and professional friend. And we really treat all of Kiley's friends as if they were our friends. So really no compromise. If you would like to discuss further with us or chat or have a follow-up question, feel free to ask Kiley our contact details, and we'll be happy to chat with you, guide you to the process, and hopefully assist you with your new journey in Panama or whatever legal need or assistance. I have a very good restaurant list for Panama. So, feel free to contact us.
He does. Thank you. Thank you, Alberto, so much. No, the idea with this insider's guide and the idea with what we're trying to do here is over the 10 years of living in Panama, being in real estate in Panama, and going through this and making friends with a lot of the clients that we end up working with, is trying to make this process as smooth as possible, because I've met people before that have tried to do other transactions previously, and some have lost everything or gotten really bad like legal consultation, or bought, let's say, a property that they shouldn't have, that had a lien, and all these different things. So the idea here, and the idea with bringing you guys into this list and creating this group, is to try and make every piece of the puzzle, whether it's purchasing real estate in Panama, selling real estate in Panama, coming up with corporate structures, taxes, selling, anything along those lines, trying to make it as smooth as possible. And I know that after the 10 years of doing this, have been able to plug in. North Americans have a different level. North Americans and Europeans have a different expectation for quality of service. And you guys are one of the few firms on a, like you said, personal and professional level that I feel comfortable recommending to people, because I know that you'll treat my clients in the way that they should be treated and give good legal advice, sound legal advice. So yeah, that's the idea of this list. That's the idea of creating this content for you guys. I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to have the context that we have and not have to stumble through the bad ones to get to the good ones. So if you guys enjoy this content, you can scroll down to the description box below, and there's 2 different links. The first one is to sign up to Kiley's Insider's Guide, and the second one is going to be to contact either directly with me, or I can connect you guys with Alberto at Delco. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.